Jeremy Fink in The Meaning of Life, Chapter 15, The Boardwalk. Lizzie has pushed aside her coffee table and is practicing her hula hooping routine. I toss her a banana from the bowl on the table. She catches it easily. I still can't believe you pulled it off, Lizzie says, beginning to peel the banana. Her accompanying music is playing on her CD player. It had taken her hours to pick out the perfect hula hoop song. You spin me right round, baby, right round, like a record, baby, right round, round, round. Honestly, I can't take the credit, I reply. We owe it to Aunt Judy and her art show. Lizzie shakes her head. Somehow you made it happen. I don't know how, but you did. As much as I'd like to believe I could perform feasts of real magic, I gave that up a few years ago when I stared at a spoon for 2 hours trying to make it bend. All that happened was that I got a monster headache and felt really stupid. Lizzie tosses her banana peel over her shoulder and accidentally brushes her arm against the hoop. It instantly falls. Ugh, she says, picking the hoop back up and placing it around her waist again. I'm never going to be ready, and we're not any closer to opening that box. But maybe we will be after tomorrow. How? Lizzie picks up the hoop and places it around her waist. We'll just ask the fortune teller when we find her. If we find her, I reply, realizing Lizzie has known all along why I want to go. The whole thing really is a long shot. After all, the fortune teller was already ancient when my dad met her. She'd be 30 years older now. I toss Lizzie the football and it slides right out of her hand. We're going to have to step up the practices if we want those Snicker bars. The next morning, Mom wakes me up at the crack of dawn. Aunt Judy will be here any minute, she says, raising the blinds. I groan and put the alligator over my eyes. Who knew the sun was even up this early? She lifts the alligator off and places him on my desk, next to Dad's box. Then she pulls a pair of shorts and a t-shirt out of my dresser drawer and tosses them on the bed. I've been dressing myself for some time now, Mom, I tell her, forcing myself to sit up. Sorry, she says, not sounding very sorry if you ask me. We're in a hurry. She leans over and pounds on the wall with her fists. Then she lifts up the solar system poster. Get up, Lizzie, she yells through the hole. I stare at her in shock, fully awake now. You know about that? She laughs. I'm a mother. Mothers know everything. They do? This is news to me. Of course, she says, holding up my t-shirt and shorts in an attempt to hurry me along. Like I know that when we go to Atlantic City, you and Lizzie are going to come up with some excuse to leave the exhibit so you can look for the fortune teller your dad met on his 13th birthday. My jaw falls open. She leans over and pushes up my chin. Do you have ESP or something? I ask when I am finally capable of speech. She smiles cryptically and doesn't answer. Then she pounds on the wall again and pulls aside the poster. Lizzie's muffled voice comes through. I'm up, jeez. 20 minutes later, Lizzie and I are crammed in the back seat of Aunt Judy's station wagon. We are sharing the seat with 10 sculptures wrapped in foam. The car smells like a combination of stale coffee and feet. I miss James, Lizzie whispers. I nod in agreement. The car isn't even my aunt's. It's shared all along all the artists working in her building. It's so old it honestly has an 8-track cassette player. We're talking 1960s old. It will be a miracle if we make it to New Jersey without the engine overheating, or all 4 tires spinning off in opposite directions. I'm somewhat surprised that Mom would risk our lives in this thing. She doesn't seem too worried, though. She has her arm out the window and her hair is flying all around. Unlike me, she likes venturing out of the city. I'm always afraid water from the Hudson River is going to flood the tunnel. I really should spend an HOJ finding out how the tunnels were built. Do you want me to put on some music? Aunt Judy calls back to us. I shudder at the thought. Anything that is on 8-track is probably not something I want to hear. Still, if there's no music, we'll still have to listen to Mom and Aunt Judy discuss the role of the artist in today's society. I lean forward and ask, what are our choices? Aunt Judy shuffles through the cassette player on her lap. Fred, KC, and the Sunshine Band, or the Jackson 5. Lizzie and I exchange quizzical looks. Just to clarify, I say, those are musical groups? She and my mother laugh. Of course they are, Aunt Judy says. Surprise us, Lizzie says, rolling her eyes. A few seconds later, the sound of a disco crackled through the old speaker. I want to put on my boogie shoes. I settle far back in the seat for what will no doubt be a very long drive. What do you mean they can't come in? Lizzie and I shrink back to the wall when my mom raises her voice, which is rare. People cower. The casino security guard isn't cowering, though. He is folding his meaty arms across his wide chest. No one under 18 gets on the casino floor, he booms. They aren't going to gamble, she insists. My sister is in an art exhibit. We only need to walk through the casino to get there. He shakes his head and glances around. I don't see no art. She went in through the loading zone, my mother says, clearly getting exasperated. We are supposed to meet her now. He shakes his head again. It occurs to me that if Mom already knows we're going to make some excuse to leave, it might as well be now. I reach over and pull on the sleeve of her blouse. Lizzie and I can walk around the boardwalk and sit on the beach. We'll meet you back here in a few hours. She sighs and gives us both long looks. All right, she finally says, but be careful. Stay together. You have your sandwiches? I pat my backpack and nod. Meet back here for lunch at noon, okay? Don't worry, Miss Fink, Lizzie says, throwing her arm across my shoulders. She has to stand on her tiptoes. I'll keep him out of trouble. And who will keep you out of trouble? She asks wearily. Who, me? Lizzie asks. My troublemaking days are all in the past. While my mom searches for a response, Lizzie and I hurry to the exit doors and burst onto the boardwalk. Since it's barely 9, hardly anyone is around us. We pass casino after casino and a lot of hot dog stands and t-shirt stands. Most of them are still closed. Where is everyone? Lizzie asks. Sleeping, I reply. Or at church. I shrug. I guess. Maybe we should go. I stop walking. To church? Lizzie points to an old wooden building right on the edge of the beach. The Atlantic City Spiritualist Church. Our all-welcome service begins at 9:30. We're right on time, she says, pulling me toward the building. From the looks of it, the church was probably once a t-shirt shop. I pull back. Are you serious? I can't go in there. Why not? For one thing, I'm part Jewish. We don't do churches. All are welcome, Lizzie says, tapping the sign with her finger. That means you, too. Why do you want to go so badly? I ask, suspicious. Something to atone for? Very funny. I just want to try it. Learning all that stuff about the universe has made me curious. That's all. What's the worst thing that could possibly happen? I don't know. They could chase us out with pitchforks and torches. Behind us, a woman says, We got rid of pitchforks years ago. Didn't we, Henry? We sure did, a man's voice replies. Except for that one time. But that guy really deserved it. Cringing, I slowly turn around. An elderly couple is standing a few feet away, holding hands and grinning. Sorry about my friend, Lizzie says, approaching them. He doesn't get out much. No worries, the woman says. We didn't mean to make fun. We're a wacky bunch. If you'd like us to give you a service, please don't feel shy. You can sit in the back, so you won't feel awkward about leaving in the middle. What do you say? Lizzie says. Her expression is so hopeful, how can I say no? All right, I thrust my hands into my shorts pockets. But you have to promise to leave if I ask you to. I promise, Lizzie says, pulling me toward the open door. As soon as I step through the threshold, I relax a little. It really doesn't seem too threatening. Long windows in the back face the wide beach with the ocean behind it. About 20 rows of folding chairs are set up in front of a small stage. Maybe 15 people are already sitting down. I don't see any crosses, or anything really religious at all. Then, out of nowhere, a woman in a flowing white dress places a Bible in my hand. I look up in surprise, but she's already moved on to the next person. How come she didn't give you one? I ask Lizzie when I see she's empty-handed. She said we're supposed to share, she says, pointing down to the 2 seats in the back row. Come on, let's go sit down. I follow. In a bit of a daze. When did she say that? Lizzie rolls her eyes. Right before she handed it to you. I shake my head and sit in on one of the hard plastic chairs. The seats are starting to fill up with people from all walks of life. Some in dresses and suits. One guy is in tattered pants without any shoes. A surfer complete with surfboard, and a few goth teenagers. Everyone says hello to each other like they're old friends. A few smile at us, and we smile back like we do all the time. I open the Bible and am surprised to find that it isn't a Bible at all. It's a songbook. I turn to Lizzie. What kind of church is this? She shrugs. Beats me. I slide down in my chair. A few minutes later, the minister, or whoever he is, instructs us all to stand and to open to page 3 in the book. I expect to find a religious hymn, but instead, page 3 is lyrics for The Wind Beneath My Wings. I do a double take, and then tilt the page so Lizzie can see it. Mom is a big Bette Midler fan, and I've had to sit through the movie's Beaches more times than any boy should ever be subjected to. Lizzie giggles and whispers, Did I ever tell you you're my hero? I reply with the next line, You're everything. Everything I wish I could be. Really? She says, looking up from the page. I mouth, No, and shake my head. As the whole congregation sings about flying higher than an eagle, I actually feel moved, Hearing the song sung by this big group of people in the church on a beach is really uplifting. No one would guess that 30 feet away, people are playing blackjack and slots while extra oxygen is being pumped through the vents to keep the gamblers from getting tired. Maybe this is why people go to church, for a sense of belonging, of escaping the everyday routine where people don't generally burst into group of song. I've only been here 10 minutes, and I feel it already. I also feel Lizzie tugging at my shirt. It takes only a second to realize I'm the only one still standing. I hurriedly sit down. The minister begins talking. He welcomes all the old faces and the new ones. Then he says, "Mankind is the eye through which the Spirit of God views his or her creation. Let us today, on this beautiful Sunday morning, be vessels through which we can see the infinite. For there rests our true natures. We are spiritual beings having an earthly life. When our life here is done, we return to the source. What is life? Life is love. Do not make the mistake of thinking love is easy. It is not. We must love ourselves, not just other people. We must be awake. Do not sleepwalk through your life. Enjoy it fully, because none of us gets out of here alive." People laugh a bit at the last part. Lizzie leans over and whispers, "Wow, that was deep." I nod. I'm thinking about what he said about returning to the source. Is that where my father is now? In the source? Just as I'd never really thought about the meaning of life before all this, I'd never really thought about what happens after you die. Even when Lizzie made me do that seance last week, I didn't really think about it. Do we really get reincarnated, like Rick said? Are heaven and hell real, and not just something they scare you with in Sunday school? Or is the end just the end, like a blank screen over and out? Thanks for the ride? I bet the meaning of death is tied to the meaning of life. This is something I really should have considered sooner. The minister guy is still talking. Now is the time for healing. "Anyone who would like to participate, please take a seat in the row of chairs on your left." Our healers tap into the life force of the universe. "They can help anyone who in the physical, mental, or emotional distress. They are waiting to help you." He points to a group of about 10 chairs that are set apart from each other. Each chair has a man or woman standing behind it. People are starting to get up from the audience to make their way over to them. I watch as the chairs fill up one by one. I turn to Lizzie to see what she thinks of all of this. But to my utter disbelief, she's not in her seat. Did the healing stuff push her over the edge? And she left without telling me? I look around wildly and finally spot her in the last place I had thought to look, in one of the chairs in front of a healer woman. My mouth falls open. The healer looks around 60, with gray and brown hair hanging all the way to her waist. She has her hands on Lizzie's shoulders and is whispering something in her ear. Lizzie's eyes are closed, her hands folded in her lap. I blink twice to make sure I'm not seeing things. In a minute, the woman moves her hands from Lizzie's shoulders on top of her head, and then back to her shoulders. Some have their eyes closed, too. A line of people are waiting for their turn. One by one, someone gets up from the chair, thanks the healer, and another person takes the seat. I am dying to know what Lizzie is feeling up there, not to mention why she went up there in the first place. Trying not to make any noise, I carefully unwrap the corner of one of my peanut butter sandwiches and nibble on it while I watch, fascinated. Finally, it's Lizzie's turn to open her eyes and thank her healer. She quickly makes her way back through the rows of seats until she reaches me. "Come on," she says, grabbing my arm and causing me to drop my sandwich. Luckily, it is mostly wrapped. I bend down to pick it up from the floor. "Come on, let's go," Lizzie says, with a sense of urgency. "Huh? Why? What was all that about up there?" "Let's just go," she says. Then, without waiting for me anymore, she heads out the front door. I quickly shove the sandwich back into my bag and slip out after her, leaving the songbook on my seat. I feel a little rude leaving it in the middle of the service, but maybe not too many people noticed. Lizzie is pacing back and forth outside. I can't read her expression. She doesn't look upset or angry, or calm, or contemplative, or anything, really. "Lizzie." She stops pacing. "Why did you want to leave? Why did you go up there?" She doesn't answer. "Is everything okay?" I ask, starting to feel concerned. "Why did you need healing? What did it feel like?" "I'm fine," she says. "Don't worry. I just really don't want to talk about it, okay?" But she shakes her head. We walk in silence in the same direction we had been heading earlier. Every few feet I sneak a glance at Lizzie, but she's looking straight ahead. The stores are mostly open now, and the boardwalk has a lot more people on it. A group of business people with badges around their necks hurried past us. There are a few families and some couples holding hands. We approach a woman sitting behind a table, but it turns out she's offering temporary tattoos for $5, not fortunes. "Want to get one?" Lizzie asks, breaking her silence. "It's just one surprise after another with you today." "I'm gonna do it." "Why? Why not? It washes off in a week." I guess I can't argue with that. We walk over to the board that shows all the different designs. "How about this one?" she says, pointing to a set of Chinese symbols. Underneath it is the English translation. I lean closer to read it. Life. Don't you think that's appropriate? She asks. You know, since we're on this whole meaning of life quest. Where would you put it? On my upper arm, I guess. Like a sailor? Trust me, she says, rolling her short sleeve up onto her shoulder. I'm not going to say Mom in a big heart. You all ready? The tattoo woman asks, cracking her gum. I don't think the tattoo covers her arms. I don't think the tattoos that cover her own arms are temporary. It's just her, I say, quickly backing away and pointing to Lizzie. Which one did you choose? She says. Lizzie points to the one she wants. Ah, life, the lady says in her Texas drawl. That's a fine choice. She directs Lizzie to sit down on the stool. She then wipes Lizzie's arm with a tissue to get off any sweat, she exclaims. We want a nice clean surface. She takes out a very thin brush and a bottle of henna. Glancing over at the design every few seconds, she begins painting in on tiny strokes. I clear my throat. You wouldn't happen to, know any fortune tellers around here? What kind of fortune teller? She asks. We got the kind who can tell fortunes with cards, and one who can hold an object of yours and tell you what you're going to marry. And we got some regular palm readers, too. Palm readers, I say. Jeremy, shouts Lizzie. Don't bother the woman while she's putting on my tattoo. The woman laughs. Don't worry, honey. I've been doing this many years. I could tap dance and fry an egg and still not mess up. So what kind of palm reader y'all looking for? I realize I don't know much about her. Well, she'd be old. Very, very old. The woman laughs again, and this time her brush actually slips a little. She quickly wets the corner of a paper towel and fixes it. Lizzie glares at me. Old compared to me? She asks. Or old compared to you? Kids your age think everyone over 40 is old. Like Russian or something. The woman finishes Lizzie's tattoo and stands back to give it a final look. Russian, you say? Big hair? Big... She pauses and then says, Teeth? Big teeth? Sound like her? I don't know, I reply honestly. My dad never mentioned her teeth. She chuckles. Check out the little shop right past the Tropicana. A few casinos down the way. I think they speak something funny like Russian in there. I start to say thank you for the information, but at the same time Lizzie says, Hey, you must know a lot about life, you know, from working here. I feel my face reddening, but I don't stop Lizzie from asking what I know she's about to ask. I've seen it all, honey. Why are you asking? We're on a quest to find the meaning of life, Lizzie explains. We kind of have a deadline. The woman makes one final flourish with the tiny paintbrush on Lizzie's arms, then stands back to admire her work. With a satisfied nod, she says, $5, please. Lizzie stands up from the stool and twists her shoulder so she can see the tattoo. Cool. She digs into her pocket and hands over a rumpled $5 bill. The meaning of life, the woman says, tucking the bill down in the front of her shirt. That's an easy one. God's love gives life meaning. I just follow the path he sets out in the good book. That's all I need to know. You follow his guidelines, it's almost like a map through the life to heaven. You don't ever got to worry if you're making the right choices or not, because it's all right there for you. She looks like she's about to say more, but a family of 6 with big cameras around their necks have swarmed the table. But how do you know you're following the right religion? Lizzie says. The right path. The woman raises her eyebrow like no one's ever asked her that before. Then she smiles. I don't know it in my head, honey. I feel it in my heart. But Lizzie is caught off by a crowd of noisy college kids who have swarmed the tattoo display and are daring each other to get the ugliest ones. Thanks for everything, I tell the woman, loudly grabbing onto Lizzie's arm before she can pry anymore. The woman looks up from her new customers and nods at us. My pleasure, honey. Hope y'all get good fortunes. As we walk away, Lizzie says, I just don't understand how there can be so many different religions with everyone thinking theirs is the right one. I don't know. I guess that's why there are so many wars. Lizzie doesn't answer. Her head is twisted around and she's busy admiring her tattoo. I have to steer her away from bumping into people. Does it bother you that no one will be able to read that? I ask. Unless they're Chinese, that is. She shakes her head. I know what it means. That's enough. I can't wait to watch my dad freak out, and I tell him it's only temporary. We walk past the Tropicana, just like the lady had said. We're right in front of the shop that says palm readings, $5. Neither of us makes a move to go in. I guess everything on the boardwalk is $5, Lizzie jokes. I still don't move. What if she's not there? Or worse yet, what if she is? What am I going to say? That if she hadn't given my dad that fortune, he might have been more careful? Do you really believe that? I shrug. Maybe a little. I thought you were going to ask her where the keys are. Yeah, that too. We don't have to go into it if you don't want to. I take a deep breath and push open the door before I change my mind. I'll never know if I don't try. We step into the room covered in pink and orange silk tapestries. Incense burns on the table of the middle of the room. Crystal balls of all sizes line the shelves. A beaded curtain separates the main room from another behind it. Okay, this place is freaky, Lizzie says. Let's make this short and sweet. I step up to the beaded curtain. Hello? Anyone? I hear a rustling sound in the back. A hand with long, bright pink fingernails pushes through the curtain. I jump back and almost knock a crystal ball right out of Lizzie's hand. The woman attached to the hand isn't more than 30 years old. She doesn't look like she has very big teeth either. That is not a toy, the woman says, taking it from Lizzie and returning it to the shelf. Now, would you like a reading? She looks expectantly at us. We shake our heads. We must have come to the wrong place, I tell her, turning toward the door. Nonsense, she exclaims. No one comes into Madame Zaliki's house of palm by mistake. Greater forces they have brought you here. Her name, Madame Zaleski, rings a bell. Dad must have said her name once. Are you Madame Zaleski? I ask. She gives a little curtsy. At your service. Now, who is the first to go? But you can't be her, Lizzie says, peering closely at the woman. You'd have to be at least 90 years old. The woman narrows her eyes. You think I look 90 years old? No, of course not, I say, glaring at Lizzie. Is there another Madame Zaleski who used to work on the boardwalk, like 30 years ago? The woman's face softens. Ah, Grandmama. She taught me everything I know. Shame that they did that to her. Lizzie and I exchange a look. What did they do to her? They kicked her off the boardwalk. That's what they did. After 20 years. Why? Lizzie asks. The woman brushes off the question with a flip of her hand. Over a piffle. Nothing. They said she was scaring people. That she told them the same thing. A chill begins to crawl up my spine. I force myself to ask, what did she tell them? She waves her hand again. They claim she told all of the men they would die before they were 40 years old. The chill now extends down my legs and out my arms. Lizzie grabs onto my arm, tight, so tight that she's cutting off my circulation. I choose my words carefully. So what you're saying is that your grandmother was a fraud? Not everyone she told that to actually died when they were 40, or say 39. Of course they didn't, she says. Grandmama wasn't a fraud. Exactly. She just liked to mix things up a little. It gets boring saying the same old things. You'll meet the man of your dreams on a train. You will have 2 children, a boy and a girl. You'll travel a lot. Read the small print. She pulls 2 business cards out of the pocket of her long skirt and hands one to each of us. The card says, for entertainment purposes only. Hey, Lizzie yells, looking up from the card. What happened to your accent? The woman shrugs. You want a reading or not? I gotta nail an appointment in a few minutes. You know, I think we'll skip it this time, Lizzie says. Come on, Jeremy, let's get out of here. I honestly don't think my feet will move. I'm tempted to scream. My eyes begin to sting from holding back the tears I refuse to shed in front of the woman. I look her right in the eye and say, since he was 13, my father thought he was going to die when he was 40. He lived his whole life that way. He died a few months before his 40th birthday. Lizzie puts her hand back on my arm, but I shake it off. Your grandmother cursed him! The woman flinches, then she says, I'm very sorry for your terrible loss, but Grandmama did not curse him. If anything, she blessed him. How do you figure that? Lizzie growls. We all live our lives as if we're going to live forever. When you know you won't, life looks different. Yeah, shorter, Lizzie says. Jeremy, can we go now? Just one more thing, I say. Where are the keys to the box my father left me? Jeremy, Lizzie says. How can you believe anything she says now? I don't reply. The woman closes her eyes. In that second, Lizzie grabs a stick of incense from the pile and shoves it in her pocket. It doesn't even bother me. Madame Zaleski's eyes pop open. In a trance-like voice, she says, You have already been near to the keys which you speak. You will find them, but it will take you much work. She shakes her head like she's clearing it. Holding out her hand, she says, $5, please. You have got to be kidding, Lizzie says. You're lucky we don't sue you. Come on, Jeremy. I let Lizzie lead me out the door. The woman doesn't try to stop us. We walk across the boardwalk, down a few wooden stairs, and onto the beach. All the while, Lizzie is muttering some nerve. And that stupid accent was back at the end. And we should still sue her. About halfway to the water, I plop down on the sand. It feels warm under my hands. Lizzie sits down next to me. Are you all right? You haven't said anything. The sand starts to swim in front of my eyes, and I quickly wipe away the tears. It was just an accident, I say softly. What was? My dad's death. It wasn't his destiny to die young. It was just an accident. Lizzie doesn't reply. I watch as she scoops up a handful of sand and lets it run through her fingers. Does that make it harder or easier? I don't know. Different, I guess. It makes me want to know what's in the box even more. I hope whatever it is, at least part of it is a letter. I want to know what he was thinking when he made it for me. You already know. Even if we never find the keys, you already know what he was thinking. I do? She nods. You know what I don't know? I ask. She shakes her head. I don't know why you went up to be healed. Neither do I, she replies. Really? She nods. Do you always know why you do something? Yes. Well, I don't. So what was it like? It was different. I felt quiet. Like for a minute, my brain was quiet. We don't say anything for a minute. I watch two kids building a sandcastle down by the water. A few seconds later, the tide washes half of it away. But they don't seem to mind. They just start right back up again. What do you think about the fortune teller? What do you think about what the fortune teller said? I asked. That we've already been very near the keys? What does that mean? Our apartments, the flea market, the store? If they were really in Harold's office, we were for sure can't go back there. We can't believe anything that comes out of her mouth. She just wanted $5. Now come on, Lizzie says, standing up, brushing the sand off her legs. Let's see if we can sneak into the casino and win a few bucks. Didn't you tell Mother that you left your troublemaking days behind you? Hey, in Europe, you can gamble when you're younger. I saw it on TV. We're in New Jersey, remember? She shrugs. So we'll talk in a foreign accent. Anything other than Russian. I don't think that was even Russian, Lizzie says. Come on, I'll race you. Before I can respond, she takes off toward the boardwalk. I can't believe she's managed to make me feel better. I watch her run, her ponytail bobbing behind her. I know with my freakishly long legs I could easily overtake her, even with her head start, but I don't. Because that's what best friends do for each other.